All right, we're about to get started. Just making sure
Cash.
all these.
Green, I mean
Don't forget to
green
like
cash.
right away so we can let people know the show's about to start. Give me a second. Come on. You think the thumbnail is too provocative to our maggot friends? That's a question for you. Consider this a poll in the chat right now on a scale of 1 to dumb. How provocative do you think this particular image is on the live stream? All right, let us know. We'll be right with you in just 1 second. Enjoy yourselves and spread some love. Also, say hi to the person to your left, to your right, and make a new friend. We'll be right there. All right. All right. All right. Click this. What does this button do? Oh, see, I get all into the dance mood, and then the dancing stops, and it's just sad. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. Good to see you guys in there. Hey, Jathan. What's happening, folks? Hi, Treva. Good to see you. Yo, Pisces. What's going on here? That's right. I'm more tannish, am I? This is, yeah. You can tell by the actual whites of my eyes. This is closer to my actual skin color. That I'm trying to make my camera better, as it were. But no matter what I do, I always look slightly more pale than I actually am. So I have decided to just roll with it and figure it out later, because what you're going to do at this point, sometimes you can't not look anything but spectacular, even this early in the morning on a Wednesday when you are doing the humping. And it is okay to hump. If you are humping in the morning, humping in the evening, well, humping at night. At one point, there was a song, I believe. It was an old, kind of frontier song that they used to sing. I be humping in the morning. I be humping in the evening. I was humping in the afternoon, and I'm almost too wiped out to hump in the middle of the night. I don't remember all the words, but something like that. I think it's something like that. Sorry. Yeah, the other camera I use for my character thing just fucking will never match this camera. It just drives me crazy. Oh no, that is not a porn stash. That's just an old standard French stash. I think I have a porn stash. Hold on. Yeah. Hey, any of you ladies know where a man can get a little help with his pelvic tilt? Sorry, it's hump day. We get this way. Where is Ficus lately? I don't know. I think he's been on vacation. He's a very busy guy. Manual labor takes a lot out of him. Hang on there 1 goddamn second. I'll have you know that I have been on a much needed sabbatical where I have been chasing bats out to sea. Trying to do, that's not true at all. I had an issue with one of my testicles. It was hanging like a bat upside down, and they had me soak it in seawater, so I was on a sea bat tickle. And it did tickle, I will say that. It was a little salty sting, but it was okay in the end. I don't want you guys to worry about me. I'll be right back later. So, welcome to the show, everybody. And by the way, hi, chat room. Welcome. Don't forget, hit the like and the subscribe and the thumbs ups. And if you're on Facebook, give us an angry emoji right out of the gate, like, oh, this show makes me upset. I'm going to stay here for the whole show because I'm so emotionally triggered. That's apparently that's what Facebook defines as quality. A salty enema, I think that's a mistake. I'm just going to say it. It sounds bad. I will say that anybody who's ever done a water slide and it built up enough speed, you better, I'm just saying, you better squeeze your ankles together. Otherwise, you're going to get, what's the word? Hydrated. I'm just saying, because, you go down those really fast ones that have the huge drop, and then you go right into the water, and it's like Moon River. You know what I'm saying? You cough up an inner tube. I'm sorry, the Prestige. I'm sorry I'm cutting into your writing time, but I hope I am a creative add-on to your day at the very least. So, okay, my favorite. This is a crazy week. This is a wacky week. It's a wacky week. I should have just called it Wacky Week in the lead up to the show, or the title of the show. Just call it just in general, because interestingly enough, and I don't know if anybody else has pointed this out, but this is the week where Donald Trump chickened out from testifying, and Hunter Biden showed up at the Capitol to do just that. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, this isn't old footage of this guy smoking a cigarette in a bathtub, or wearing a denim vest, stuffing his white shorts up under these to look like a diaper, smoking a cigarette, doing a little bit of the Instagram comedy style photos. This is Hunter Biden speaks ahead of scheduled House deposition, and what he said was, "I'll do it in public, but I'm not going to go hide away where you guys can like pepper me for 6 hours and then release 2 sentences and go, aha, no, absolutely not." So here he is showing up to testify at the Capitol.
Well being here. Good morning. I'm here today to answer at a public hearing any legitimate questions Chairman Comer and the House Oversight Committee may have for me. I'm here today to make sure that the House Committee's illegitimate investigations of my family do not proceed on distortions, manipulated evidence, and lies.
That's pretty direct. Also, by the way, I gotta say, gentlemen, I want you to take a class on speaking in your diaphragm. This happens. Politicians, especially, or people around politicians, tend to talk higher. They do what I would call the Sebastian Bach. Sebastian Bach, for the record, anytime you meet him, he speaks way up in his high voice like this. He sounds like a 15-year-old selling you a skateboard on the street. And the reason he does this, sorry, the volume's a bit low. This is just how they have it. But the reason he does this is to protect his singing voice while he's talking in and amongst a bunch of people. Yes, you can totally hear Joe's voice and his upbringing in there. Absolutely. Yeah, dude, that's why Sebastian Bach always talks like this, because he's keeping his voice in the top of his vocal cords so he doesn't talk down here, and in flapping his vocal cords, tear them to pieces. There you go. And so a lot of politicians do that kind of too. It's why a ton of Texas politicians, like Ted Cruz, sound like absolute wieners when they talk. Now. They all have that kind of like George H.W. Bush kind of sounding situation. So they sit up in here, right? There you go. Oh yeah, we'll get to that, Alyosher. Oh boy. So yeah. So anyways, here we go. I'm just saying, gents, when you're doing these kind of things, because of your audience, remember, it's not about you, it's about your audience. It's not about the people sympathetic to you, it's about the people who aren't, right? Drop your vocal cords down into their bass range. It scares the crap out of these idiots.
And I'm here today to acknowledge that I've made mistakes in my life and wasted opportunities and privileges I was afforded. For that, I'm responsible. For that, I'm accountable. And for that, I'm making amends. But I'm also...
By the way, just for the record, Donald Trump, super Christian, does not believe in regret or making amends. He said that to a Christian pastor asking if he would ever, what he would ask God for forgiveness for.
Also here today to correct how the MAGA right has portrayed me for their political purposes. I am first and foremost a son, a father, a brother, and a husband from a loving and supportive family.
Yeah, that's the part they have a problem with. You got to understand, this is why Don and Eric and Don Sr. really have a bone to pick with Hunter. Let me make this clear. As much as Hunter Biden's like cocaine use is what led him to being discharged from the army, Donald Trump would disavow his own children. It would disown them if they joined the military. He has told them as much. You join the military, you're no son of mine. Yeah. Not for being, and by the way, Joe Biden still loves his son even after he was discharged for his cocaine use because he was an addict and needed help and all that kind of stuff, like a parent would. Hilarious.
I'm proud to have earned degrees from Georgetown University and Yale Law School. I'm proud of my legal career and business career. I'm proud of my time serving on a dozen different boards of directors. And I'm proud of my efforts to forge global business relationships. For 6 years, MAGA Republicans, including members of the House committees who are in a closed-door session right now, have impugned my character, invaded my privacy, attacked my wife, my children, my family, and my friends. They have ridiculed my struggle with addiction. They have belittled my recovery. And they have tried to dehumanize me, all to embarrass and damage my father, who has devoted his entire public life to service. For 6 years, I have been the target of the unrelenting Trump attack machine, shouting, "Where's Hunter?"
Oh, by the way, I have not watched this, so this is, yeah.
Well, here's my answer. I am here. Let me state as clearly as I can. My father was not financially involved in my business, not as a practicing lawyer, not as a board member of Burisma, not in my partnership with a Chinese private businessman, not in my investments at home nor abroad, and certainly not as an artist.
Yeah, his dad has totally shot down his art career.
During my battle with addiction, my parents were there for me. They literally saved my life. They helped me in ways that I will never be able to repay. And of course, they would never expect me to. And in the depths of my addiction, I was extremely irresponsible with my finances. But to suggest that is grounds for an impeachment inquiry is beyond the absurd. It's shameless. There is no evidence to support the allegations that my father was financially involved in my business because it did not happen.
That's pretty unequivocal. I'm fairly certain, by the way, this is the statement he was going to open with if they actually let him do the, this witness can make a statement. This is more than likely what he was going to say. They weren't probably going to let it happen or whatever. I don't know. There might have been some sort of shock moment like, all right, he's here. Let's do this. Like, as stupid as the Republicans are, be a missed opportunity.
James Comer, Jim Jordan, Jason Smith, and their colleagues have distorted the facts by cherry-picking lines from a bank statement, manipulating texts I sent, editing the testimony of my friends and former business partners, and misstating personal information that was stolen from me. There is no fairness or decency in what these Republicans are doing. They have lied over and over about every aspect of my personal and professional life. So much so that their lies have become the false facts believed by too many people. No matter how many times it is debunked, they continue to insist that my father's support of Ukraine against Russia is the result of a non-existent bribe.
Yeah, I know. No matter how many times I've debunked it, they keep hanging on. I'm with you, buddy.
They displayed naked photos of me during an oversight hearing. And they have taken the light of my dad's love, for me, and presented it as darkness. They have no shame.
Yeah, we know they have no shame. I would lean into they are grotesque, or that this whole thing is grotesque. Shame isn't something they feel like they should have. And again, being shameless, I used to have a bit in my stand-up act a long time ago about this particular word, and that I'm not shameless, I'm shame-free was the essence of the bit. But the idea that people like James Comer or Jim Jordan, consider what Jim Jordan is accused of. Consider what Jim Jordan at OSU. To show up and make a spectacle of yourself, not wearing a jacket and being this kind of like firebrand for this and being out front in the Freedom Caucus in that crowd. In spite of that, instead of sort of like laying low and hoping you just can work through it as a member of Congress and have something to show for it, therefore get reelected based on that, shows that he's incapable of experiencing shame. Same with Trump. Trump is incapable of feeling shame. He is, however, easily embarrassed. And I think Comer is also of that ilk. Comer, and I'll see if I can find the little statement, because after this, Comer and them, were being followed around by reporters asking them questions about it. And Comer got really testy about it. And he's like, you're defending Hunter by questioning me. It's like, dude, it's your accusations. The burden is on you to make this make sense. And if it can't or doesn't, that's not my fault. I'm pushing you on these broad generalities you're making, or these mischaracterizations of facts. Again, he's not going to feel shame. He's going to feel embarrassed because being dunked on is something these dickheads understand. And thank you, Blue Karma, for the super chat. By the way, hit that like, kids. We're still in the early part of the show. It'll help drive us up.
These same committee chairmen have engaged in unprecedented political interference in what would have already been a 5-year investigation of me. Yet, here I am, Mr. Chairman, taking up your offer when you said we can bring these people in for depositions or committee hearings, whichever they choose.
Yeah, that was the line his attorney fired back at them when they tried to make it only a behind-the-scenes interview.
Well, I've chosen. I am here to testify at a public hearing today to answer any of the committee's legitimate questions. Republicans do not want an open process where Americans can see their tactics, expose their...
Well, also, for the record, Comer would have to show up. See, even at the private one, I doubt Comer will face him. He didn't do it he wasn't at the Devin Archer one. Maybe that was just laziness. But I very much doubt that Comer would actually be at the private deposition. They would just send in the Republican lawyers with a list of shit that they're supposed to go after, because Comer's too much of a chicken shit to actually face the witness he's pulling forward, if they push back at it at all. If it's somebody who's going to go, who's going to not give him the smoking squirt gun or whatever the fuck he's expecting to find, he doesn't show up. He doesn't go. Same thing with Jordan. He's only there half the time. Comer more than likely would not show up to the deposition, the private deposition.
Baseless inquiry, or hear what I have to say. What are they afraid of?
Looking like assholes.
I'm here. I'm ready.
Hunter, are you ready to go?
Why not testify in private? Because of the reason he just said, stupid. You're really going to yell that out, right as he's leaving? Okay, I'm going to try and dig up the Marge. Let's see. Hold on. Yeah, here you go. So, let's see, blink. Let me grab this on here.
Yes, I do. Okay.
Hold on. I'm gonna put this on another. Copy that. Put this in here. Paste. Yeah, here you go. Let me bring this up here because this is the moment. I guess. Hold on. Breaking news: Jim Jordan issues blunt warnings and contempt. Congress. Okay, this is an hour ago. Yeah. Okay. Here's the whole thing. So, Hunter showed up and said, "I want to testify in public." So these guys all gaggled in their room, and I'll see what the audio's like. See if I can boost it when they come out. Get to it.
All right. Well, I'll say what I said just a moment ago.
Okay, is Jamie Comer standing on a box, or are Jim Jordan and Marjorie Taylor Greene really that tiny? Exactly. Salty Sylvester says, bunch of little worms. Yeah.
So, Chairman Jordan and I have been very clear. We issued a lawful subpoena to the president's son. This has been a 10-month investigation, a credible, transparent investigation that is...
Yeah, try harder. By the way, you're standing next to a guy who's still blowing off a subpoena from Congress.
Produced a lot of troubling evidence.
No. Okay, it's information, not evidence, and it's troubling because you're having trouble turning information into evidence. Because, again, a smoking gun at a shooting range is different than a smoking gun while someone's standing over someone who is dead with a bullet hole in them. Again, if you're standing over someone who's dead with a smoking gun, but they've been stabbed to death, the smoking gun is still not evidence, except for maybe, unlawfully discharging a weapon inside city limits.
We have lots of questions. Hopefully you all have had an opportunity to go in the committee room and see the boxes of documents that we've accumulated.
Yeah, so fucking what? Yes, we're aware that when businesses are run, they have a lot of paperwork. You know how we know that? Because Trump hid a bunch of his in the shitter.
Tens of thousands of pages of documents.
So what? Okay, you've got tens of thousands of pages of documents. Do you have a single one that says, this deal wouldn't have gone through except for my dad, and here's the money, and this is for him, and it goes directly to him, and make sure he gets it by noon today? Oh, and also that he changes government policy for this money. I don't give a shit how many documents you have. As a matter of fact, the more documents this asshole has, the less sense it makes that he can't find a smoking gun.
We have lots of specific questions.
Yes, we know. Like, where's the evidence? Help us bust you. We can't find any crimes.
This is an investigation about public corruption at the highest levels of our government.
No, it isn't. And okay, well, there was a distinct word in there. About.
This is an investigation about public corruption at the highest levels of our government.
Yes. If there was actual corruption, it would be an investigation of corruption at the highest levels of our government. But since it's a story, it's about. He can't say of because that's a direct accusation and he doesn't have any actual evidence. So he has to say about. It's in the same realm as alleged. Jesus.
The American people expect Congress to investigate this because...
No. Your constituents are pissed that you are fucking around, that you are wasting their time, that every time you show up in front of a microphone, you look dumber and push the goalpost even further.
I think one thing that Chairman Jordan's proven is
that if sexual assault is happening around you and you couldn't have not seen it, and I do mean not seen it, you know, there's still plausible deniability amongst the kind of assholes that would actually vote for someone like Jim Jordan. So, yeah.
The FBI, the DOJ, and the IRS, as we've heard from the whistleblowers, have all dropped the ball. So the House
What ball would that be?
Oversight and House Judiciary Committee are conducting this credible investigation that an overwhelming majority of Americans want.
No, they don't.
We have specific questions for the president's son. He does not get to dictate the terms of the...
Wait, you have specific questions for him that you can't ask in public. Seriously. Okay, why? One of the biggest reasons why this is so fucking lame. What is to be lost by you guys getting Hunter Biden in a committee hearing, sitting at a table and pleading the fifth on something because he has an upcoming case? You don't think people would make dunking videos out of that horse shit for months on end and would give you as much as selectively leaking deposition footage, dum-dum?
This subpoena. So with that, I'll turn over to Chairman Jordan.
Because I don't know what else to say. They look like winners. They look like they're winning. This looks like winning. Are they? And by the way, whose shoes are they looking at right now?
I would just point out that I've had a chance now to review what Hunter Biden said in his press conference, and I think he made an interesting statement. He said his father was not financially involved in the business. And I think that qualifier, the word financially, is important.
Uh-huh. Right. It's very important. It's actually highly fucking specific. Because, again, let me explain this to you. The clown, Ronald McDonald, is not involved in the business of McDonald's. The people that work at McDonald's might have a statue of him or have him in the commercials, but he has no bearing on the financial health of the company or whether it makes any money at all. When they talk about the brand, that's exactly that. And again, the reason Hunter Biden had value as an investor and as an investment broker was because he couldn't disappear because his fucking dad was Joe Biden. And people around the world who were interested in doing these international deals were like, look, there are a bunch of these motherfuckers that when we give them our money, they just vanish. A dozen of them have already vanished into fucking Russia. Every time we try to invest in Ukraine, some motherfucker takes our money and bugs out. This guy can't. Because of his last name. And again, that's not illegal. That's just because he's literally a safe investment. But you'll see. But financially, so he gave advice for free?
Because once again, it shows another change.
It's not a change. He's being more specific. If you're not involved financially in a business, you're not involved in the business. And if you're saying it benefited his family and makes them rich just because his name's there or he exists, that doesn't mean he changed. If he's not involved financially, he's not changing policy for their benefit or his.
Change in this story. First, it was no involvement. Then, no, I never talked to anyone. And then we find out about the dinners, the meetings, the phone calls, and everything else. Now,
no, you didn't. Dinners, meetings, and phone calls. By the way, phone calls are plural. Meeting being singular, the World Food Bank one. That's the one they keep saying. Like I showed you guys the fucking the New York Post story that they used to conflate this bullshit.
It's okay. He wasn't involved in the business financially. I think that is important. It's one of the reasons we want to talk to Hunter Biden.
Great. Ask him in fucking public. Ask him to clarify that point. Why can't you ask him that question in public? Why does that question have to be asked behind closed doors? Seriously, national security? Do you guys give a fuck? What do you think? It's gonna lower people's opinion of the president in Republican circles? Get the fuck out of here! Every single thing they're bringing up, I have no idea why they can't ask him in public.
The second thing I would say is this: in a few hours, I think the House of Representatives is going to pass the impeachment inquiry, and that is an important step you talk to any scholars in this, I think we could proceed as we did under Speaker McCarthy where he announced it, but this is an important step. The impeachment power resides solely with the House of Representatives. If a majority of the House now says we're in an official impeachment inquiry as part of our constitutional duty to do oversight, that carries weight. That's going to help.
Yeah, except all the other Republicans who aren't into this and the people in their districts who think this is a giant fucking waste of time suddenly look like they're cradling your balls. And that's not something their constituents want. Their constituents want other shit. They want a border bill passed or some shit like that. They, you know, at some point they know Biden, even if there was an impeachment and a conviction, there's no way the Senate passes this. There's no way this changes before the election next year. They know the game because that's how Trump stayed in, even though Trump was fucking guilty. The majority of their constituents don't want this, much less Ken Bucks or any of the other Republicans who are like, I'm not going to vote for a fucking impeachment inquiry. We're going to do this shit for the next, 6 months.
Let's get these witnesses in. And maybe most importantly, regarding this morning's activities, this is the argument that the White House and Hunter Biden's counsel used to say he shouldn't come. Okay, we disagree. We thought he should have been here. But when we take that vote this afternoon, what's our argument going to be then?
That he already showed up, and you were called in on the Jan 6 hearing, and you defied that, and that was actually a material. Okay, you know the thousands of documents in boxes that you have in his fucking office that you think are grounds for calling in Hunter Biden to try and get him to incriminate his father when you can't manage to do it even with all those documents? Okay, now imagine if all those pages in those boxes were hours of footage of people attacking the fucking Capitol. And that will tell you the sort of structure of the material nature of the Jan 6 committee and the inquiry they were putting together and this impeachment.
We think he should come in. And if he doesn't, we're gonna move forward with contempt proceedings. There's a process we have to follow, but we plan to do that.
There's a process we have to follow. Yeah, you mean the process you're still ducking, asshat?
And come in today and answer 3-4 hours of questions. Do you think some Republicans would have backed off on the inquiry tonight, possibly, or were you guys hell-bent going forward no matter what?
No, they're not going to hold back because we've requested thousands of emails that they still will not turn over. We've requested...
Yeah, please give us emails that we hope will have some crime in them. We can't find any.
Transcribed interviews with certain White House staff that they've instructed not to come.
Transcribed interviews with White House staff they've instructed not to come. Okay.
So the White House continues to obstruct, and I think you're going to see a clear message from the House today for the White House to cooperate with this investigation.
Nah, probably not.
She's coming. Yeah, she's coming. She's coming. Yeah, she's.
Who? I didn't hear that part.
House today for the White House to cooperate with this investigation.
She's coming. Yeah, she's coming. She's coming. Yeah, she's coming. We know. We definitely know come.
Who?
There has to be a report filed. We're scheduled to depart for the Christmas break tomorrow, but we will begin moving on that report working with the lawyers on the Oversight Committee and lawyers on Judiciary Committee.
Oh, Leslie Wolf. Okay, yeah.
Oversight Committee to get that ready. But there's a process you have to go through.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, there is a process. Yeah. Hi. What's up, Texas Paul?
But we will initiate that process.
Are you concerned if you are able to pass a contempt resolution and then you refer that to the Biden Justice Department, how they might handle it? How do you think that?
Oh, let's see. Are you afraid you'll pass an impeachment recommendation or something to the Biden Justice Department and they won't do anything with it?
That process plays itself out.
Well,
no. I'll tell you what. They know the Department of Justice won't do anything with it because A, there's already a legal case playing out with Hunter Biden in California, and so it will already be like that. That case is already in existence. There are no grounds for tying that to Biden that they have found or that there is to be found. And So the DOJ can't move on it, and therefore they'll say the DOJ is obstructing this. We clearly sent them evidence of this and that and the other, which isn't evidence. It's just shit that they think looks hinky, and that's all they've got. They'll send it up there to the DOJ, and the DOJ will go, this is information, not evidence. There is nothing tying it. Yeah.
It's supposed to be equal treatment under the law. We know what they...
Right, which means nothing will happen.
What they... we know how aggressive...
I agree. Texas Paul is awesome, and that is being said in the chat right now, and I agree.
They were with other individuals who've been held in contempt. We'll see what happens here, but...
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry, what'd you say, dummy? What was that? What was that? I missed that part. What was that?
How aggressive they were with other individuals who've been held in contempt. We'll see what happens here.
You mean who else would have been dodging a subpoena that you're complaining that they're going easy on those folks? That's the issue? Holy shit.
But all we can do is, we can do our job, and we're going to do that.
And what job would that be? Oh, as political hit people for Donald Trump because he needs a balancing act of bullshit to make the whole system look corrupt, so that the no labels assholes and other people could go, I don't know, the whole system's vote all the bubs out. That bullshit.
Do you think it's something the special counsel should handle, or?
We're going to do our job.
Chairman Jordan, you yourself have refused a congressional subpoena in the past. Can you speak to the differences here?
Actually, I did not. I responded. You can go look at the letters. I never said no to it. I just want to know how it was going to work and the process was going to work. And wrote them a letter, and they didn't do it. They didn't do a darn thing. So.
But Chairman Jordan, one thing Hunter Biden said this morning was Republicans have mocked his addiction.
I've not.
For Chairman Comer or Congressman, what do you think of that idea that he's saying you guys are
I'm not.
mocking addiction?
We've never mocked his addiction. Again.
Okay. Yes, they are. Yes, they have. They have repeatedly downplayed it. She certainly fucking has. The idea that they're skating the language because all they did was call bullshit on it, or say it's not an excuse, or that or dodge when they get caught doing it and go, this isn't about Hunter Biden. This is about his dad.
This
bullshit.
is an investigation of Joe Biden. Hunter Biden's a key witness because we have a simple.
Wouldn't you want a key witness to testify in public then, if they're that key?
Question, and the majority of Americans have a question.
Oh yeah, what question would that be?
What did the Bidens do to receive tens of millions of dollars from our enemies around the world?
First of all, Ukraine wasn't our enemy ever. I mean, I guess technically when they were a province of the USSR, right? Maybe possibly, right? So I don't know what the fuck that is. Secondly, if you want to talk about the mayor of Moscow's wife being an enemy when it was her husband who was linked to Putin, and he's fucking dead. He died of a heart attack while getting medical treatment, which happens a lot over there, apparently. It's seeing the ground coming up at you that fast can give you a heart attack, I hear. But
it's a simple question.
Yes, here's a simple question. Why did an investment payment from CEFC through Yi Jianming into a holding account to purchase a natural gas plant in Louisiana, which is the deal that Hunter Biden set up with this guy through CEFC, which was $5 million. That was the seed money for, this don't fuck around on us money that later would end up being $40 million for the deal. And then everybody would take their percentage of it, right? That how a normal purchasing deal was. And then CEFC and Yi Jianming would not set up a U.S. subsidiary, so the deal fell apart because Hunter and his business partners were all very clear that that they would not sell an American business to the CEFC, and through the Chinese Wealth Fund, the CIC, which, by the way, Donald Trump allowed to purchase property in the United States during his presidency. Remember all that shit about Chinese buying property close to our military bases? Okay, that became possible because of Donald Trump's changes in American policy towards the CIC, the Chinese Sovereign Wealth Fund. By the way, why the fuck does China have a sovereign wealth fund when they're not an oil-based economy? Sovereign wealth funds are mostly for places that have singular mineral deposits or singular, mainly it's about oil and gas. Curious that, because I'll tell you why, because they view people as lumps of coal. human resources, they like to call it. I call it slavery, but whatever. That said, so the CIC deal, they had to set up a subsidiary in the United States for that deal. And they didn't do it. That's why it fell apart. Now, on the other side, Yi Jinping from CEFC, the China company with China money, bought a $5 million apartment in Trump World Tower right across from the UN and never set foot in the fucking place. Just bought it. Just threw $5 million Donald Trump's way for an empty apartment. Didn't rent it. Didn't make it an Airbnb investment. Just held on to it. Never intended to use it. So why? We just had some questions. I got some questions. Hold on. Hey, I got some questions. Here's some questions for you. Why would anybody pay $5 million for an apartment? Dude, if you got $5 million for an apartment, you got $100,000 times, I don't know, it's higher than 7. Anyways, dude, you could buy, carry the 2, 800 of my house for that. Why would you get an apartment and then never set foot in the motherfucker? Why? I want to know why. China money was flowing into Donald Trump's pocket for empty apartments. Why? Probably the same reason it flowed into his pocket for empty hotel rooms at his hotel. They buying out entire floors. Why? I got some questions I want answered. Why? Come on. Why?
Every American wants to know.
They do. They really want to know who the fuck pays $5 million for an apartment they ain't even going to live in, especially one right across from the fucking UN, man. What are you making, a sniper's nest? I ain't saying you are, but you're going to have to explain to me how you ain't, because it sounds like a tactical drop-off for fucking spies at this point. You just buying dummy apartments with a like a come and go pass for some dude with a long suitcase? Why?
What did you do to receive the money?
They'd set up a deal to purchase a natural gas facility in the United States that fell through because they wouldn't set up a U.S. subsidiary, and therefore they got to keep part of the deposit because they wasted everyone's time. It was supposed to be a much bigger deal. They were going to make way more money on it once the deal went through because they'd have a part of it, be an investment, but it fell apart because it was all bullshit. And they got caught on the back foot going, oh, wait, this is bullshit. They're fucking with us. And Donald Trump went, I don't care that it's bullshit. Give me the money. That's how it worked. It was way easier. They didn't even have to set up this fucking ruse to convince Hunter Biden and his partners that they actually wanted to buy this fucking natural gas facility. That's what the Chinese did with that. Took a lot of fucking work, a lot of tap dancing, a lot of paperwork and all this stuff. Trump was just like, buy that apartment, never set foot in it, just make sure the check clears. I give a fuck. That's why, yeah.
And we also want to know what role Joe played, because quite frankly,
well, we know one thing. It wasn't financial.
It's hard for me to believe. I'll speak.
Well, here's the thing. It's hard for me to believe that you and your brother weren't scheming to shuffle property around to avoid taxes on giant chunks of land in eastern Kentucky.
For myself, that all these oligarchs and the Chinese Communist Party.
All these oligarchs? You mean the lady who was trying to get her money out of Russia before the fucking place collapsed? Yelena Baturina? Here's what I want to know. How about Inna Yashishin? How about that? I got some questions. I got a question for you. Inna Yashishin, which sounds like, you know, something that goes up your poop chute.
Moon River.
You better watch it. You bend over in front of her, she'll stick it in your shishin. And she's that lady who pretended to be a Rothschild and got pictures with Rudy and Lindsay and Trump at fucking Mar-a-Lago. She came and went in a fucking $170,000 rented vehicle that nobody knows who the fuck rented it for her. Told everybody she was Anna de Rothschild. Her real name's Inna Yashishin, and her fucking boyfriend, somebody tried to murder him in Toronto. I have some questions. Why? And as one of your constituents in eastern Kentucky, why? If I may, why?
We're wiring Hunter Biden millions of dollars because they liked him because he added value to something. We
Right, because he couldn't abscond with their money.
believe, as what Devin Archer testified.
By the way, I have to call into question the judgment of these lovely folks. And in 10 minutes, by the way, our dear friend Philip Bittner will be joining us from Ukraine, and we'll jump over there. But I have a very distinct question why I should take the concerns and the inquisition of Hunter Biden's investment history seriously from this lady who put money into a SPAC, the special access company or whatever, that put money into Donald Trump's Truth Social when nobody was supposed to know that's where the money would go. She knew ahead of time. That would be insider trading for the who's at home. And she lost her fucking ass on that deal. Because the digital world acquisitions or whatever, their stock has taken a giant shit. So not only is she an inside trader, not only is she only investing in kind of propaganda against the United States, which is exactly what Truth Social is. Fucking Pravda means truth, you dumb fuck. So why would I take her seriously? Why would I take this guy shuffling property around with his brother seriously about other people's fucking money laundering? And why is the third guy in the third, and I do mean third guy, in this over there, Jim Jordan, still dodging a subpoena from the previous Congress, and he looked the other way during sexual assault accusations against the people, against his boss, by the kids he was supposed to be watching out for.
In the transcribed interview that they were selling the brand and Joe Biden was the brand.
Right. And what's the brand? I'm too famous to fuck off with your money. It has to make money. That's what it is. Like, what's the brand? Serious. Is it different than the Menendez brand? Yeah, it is.
And we believe that Joe Biden's known about this all along because he hasn't been honest with the American people. As Chairman Jordan said, his story continues to change.
Nope. As the questions get more specific, the answers will get more specific. As you broad motherfuckers try to go, like they have been recently trying to tie money transfers, from his brother to him repaying the loan and all that stuff financially to him, saying this is him financially being involved. And he was never financially involved. There was no business there. That's that. And financially, by the way, means your family benefits from you, so you're effectively leaving them money after you die by never having it pass through your coffers. That would be the same thing. Same qualification.
In the very beginning, when we launched this investigation, Joe Biden said he never met with any of these individuals.
Right. And he didn't. And he didn't meet with, being at the World Food Bank dinner is not meeting with these individuals, getting a picture taken with these motherfuckers. And you know how I can, here's what I want to know. Well, let's see. I think it's, well, shit, I'll just put it here, I guess. Here's, you want to know this, how seriously I fucking take, where we go, back down here. Yeah, here you go. Here you go. Now, tell me again about who met with who and the extent of meetings and never being on a plane with anybody, Trump was never on Jeffrey Epstein's flight logs. Well, how about this? How about we get Trump's fucking flight logs? How about that? How about we ask for Trump's flight logs? Here's my question. Fuck how many times Trump was on Epstein's plane. How many times was Epstein on Trump's fucking plane? And where did they go? Yes, RFK Jr. was on Epstein's plane twice. And again, this was an open secret. Yeah. Do you know how easy it is to get a flight to alter a flight log? Yes, that's true. You can definitely change it. And by the way, there's a theory going around that Trump signed other people's names on the flight log, or he insisted they put somebody else. But how about this? If that's not Epstein's plane, it's Trump's plane, or they borrowed another one because Trump's like, I don't trust anybody. And Roy Cohn told me never fly in Epstein's plane. If you're going down to his island, take another plane, charter something, and never do the same one twice, and then tip the guy to rip up the fucking record later. Sorry. So say again. What were you saying about meetings? Something about meetings because Trump was at the or Biden was at the World Food Bank meeting and took a picture with some folks.
Now we know we met with all of these individuals.
Oh yeah?
The narrative when we started this investigation was that no money ever transferred to the Bidens while Joe Biden was vice president.
Nope. That was never said. The idea that, again, okay, first of all, the CEFC deal happened after he was not vice president anymore. So fuck that anyways. The idea that the Bidens as a family, his family members didn't get paid doing the work they were doing during his presidency or during the vice presidency and during his time in Senate is just ridiculous. It's just, it's patently absurd. Now, you could have, if there's anything about James Biden's work in Iraq, let's say, the deal they were working on to build houses or schools over there and that kind of stuff, that's tied to Joe Biden or whatever, you would have something to talk about. The problem was all that shit was signed off by everybody by everybody at the time. And in many ways, they didn't know James had a part in that when they did it. So there's a bunch of Republicans who signed off on those deals. So they can't go, yeah, we did it. Joe called me and said, throw my brother a bone, because it fucking didn't. He didn't do it. So, but anyways, he was saying something about meetings or something that happened or didn't happen.
Now we know a huge percentage of the money transferred while Joe Biden was vice president.
Okay, because they're almost in the entirety of the money was his paycheck from Burisma, which transferred from the business he was working for into Hunter Biden's accounts, and then apparently to drug dealers and hookers in a lot of cases, somewhere in the millions of dollars. That said, for the record, it didn't transfer to, I don't know, this weird thing or whatever. It's hard to even keep track of what the fuck they're talking about in terms of, yes, the massive amount of money, the biggest amount of money was the money made by Hunter Biden while he worked at Burisma. That's it. That's the biggest chunk of money. And that money went from him to Hunter. It didn't go to Joe. It didn't go anywhere else. There's nowhere it followed through. And the checks they've shown were like, are James Biden and his wife paying Joe back for a deal or a $4,000 fucking truck payment.
The majority of the shell companies were incorporated while Joe Biden was vice president.
That's because the children grew up and incorporated because they started their own businesses. So there were more of those people than there were of Hunter Biden and James and Shemp and Curly Joe Biden. Also, for the record, Hunter, they're not shell companies. Hunter's has, yes, millions of hookers, absolutely. $1 a piece. They weren't the best, but he was more into volume, I think. I'm kidding. The majority of the businesses are Hunters. The other, I guess there are 3 other businesses that James Biden and his wife run. So they're like, whatever, over the course of it, 12 of the 20, right? Because and by the way, a reminder, Donald Trump has 1,500 LLCs, 500 of which, or more, at least 500, are just limited partnerships over single bank accounts with no business. All the shit that they're talking about, literally, there is a bank account under an LLC that Donald Trump has signing power over, and he has silent partners, God knows where, because they don't bother to say. A lot of it, these are real estate ventures so they don't have to fucking say, which is a law we have to change. You want to change corruption in the housing market in the United States like that? Make property ownership visible. Whoever owns it, there's got to be a direct owner. Any business that has investors that are overseas or any of that shit, they have to list those people. They can't just be funds, none of that shit. The people on those funds individually have to. And if they can't do it, they can't buy the property. Yeah. And if you did that, Donald Trump's entire business would collapse in an afternoon. And it kind of already is. But, yeah.
So we have a lot of questions.
I have a lot of questions, too. I thought Trump didn't drink. Were they sharing a drink, or was he just watching him? What was Epstein toasting there? What do you think? Is that a napkin on his lap or a piece of some woman's dress? Did they just finish a meal together, or were they just starting their evening? Is Hal a metalhead? Wow, are you new?
Very concerning transfers. That's why we have the
very concerning transfers. Murder case. Your Honor, people of the jury, today I will show you evidence of a very concerning transfer of a bullet from this gun into the deceased. Said no one ever.
The thousands of pages of bank records. We've been very transparent with the media.
Have you? It's so transparent you want to talk to Hunter Biden behind closed doors?
This has been, I think, the most transparent political congressional investigation since I've been in Congress for 7 years.
Well, that's because you were against the other ones, dum-dum. And if I may, let me just shrink this down so we can just have it there as a little reminder. You know, just set it up there. That's good stuff. If I may, hold on. I'll put this. Dink, 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 dink. Yeah. So, anyways, you were saying?
Years, we've produced 4 bank memorandums with specific bank statements.
Yeah, with zero evidence.
I mean, this is a concern.
Is it a concern? Is it? I gotta say, because I'm totally lacking concern. I'm not even concerned you're gonna to be concerned. I would have to be worried that you're gonna find something. Yeah, release Comer's laptop. Why is he hiding it from the people? That's right, chat room. And by the way, hi, chat room. Hit that like. Give us a thumbs up. Support the show. See that? We've hit the over 2,000 mark in the chat because you guys hit the like, and that pops us up in the thing and then lets people know we're here.
This is about public.
Oh, wait. I got to bring Phil in here in a second. I forgot. Beg your pardon. He's going to be waiting in the wings. Give me a second. And then we see. And then we'll bring us in here. And I'm sorry that I'm running late, and it just happens. And there we go. And he's there. Now, whoops, hold on. Dink. There we go. Hold on, Phil. I'll be with you in just 1 second, my friend.
Sure. Sure.
Yep. Let me bring this in because I'm finishing up the lovely Comer video. Oh, yeah. It's good stuff. Switching over to studio mode.
Pathetic.
I'm producing my own shit. Okay. Let's go to here. Beg your pardon. And give me a second. There we go. And I'll pop in here. And then I just have to take off Tara's name so people don't confuse, because you get confused very easily.
I know.
People are like, wait a minute.
Almost indistinguishable.
Yeah, indistinguishable. Yeah, Tara looks taller. It's very strange. Yeah. There we go. Yeah, so let me bring you in right now, actually. Ladies and gentlemen, if I may, I don't think he's in Kiev right now. Are you? Or he might be in an undisclosed Kiev location.
I'm in New York. No,
you're in New York. You made it to New York. Right. There you go.
I made it to New York. It's weird being in New York when, Kiev got pelted last night pretty hard.
Right.
Not a coincidence that everything, is happening here stateside as well with Zelensky's visit.
Right.
hit him with a lot of guided missiles.
That's
Shot
right.
him out of the sky, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, the debris coming down. There's one site in particular where the crater's huge. So I
Yes.
don't know if the warhead exploded or what, but 53 people taken to hospital.
Yeah.
You know, or injured. Many of them taken to hospital with serious injuries. So
Right.
you know, no joke. You know, and then to see Zelensky on the Hill.
Whoops. Hold on. Lost the audio for 1 second. Hold on. Let me bring it back. Check, check, check. Very strange. Yep. Hold on. Let me jump over and I'll jump back and see if this does this. Hold on. There we go. Yeah, I lost your audio from your end for some particular reason. Not sure why. I don't see it coming from you. I usually will see a thing. It might just be a hotel thing. It might be I have hotel internet issues sometimes when like when you're transferring over. Hold on 1 second, and I will also start up the screen so we know that you're on. Hi, there you are. Testing. There we go. Give me 1 second. I will switch us back to studio mode and get me back on here until we can fix that. And it's just the nature of the beast. It's all right. We'll get it in there in a second. Bringing you up here as soon as I get audio on there. Let's see. This would be, let's see, is this in here? Yeah, no, it's all coming in. It's just not coming from your end. You want to dial back in real quick? I don't know that he can hear me. Hold on. Let's see. I'll just go dial back in. There you go. See, like, hit a reset there, see if you can. Yeah. Oh, wait. I just heard audio. What was that? Hold on. We just heard audio from you. It's your headphones. You switched headphones and there was noise. I heard it. I don't know. Has Phil gotten pizza and bagels yet? We don't know. He's going to restart because right as we got it, that's what happens. Yeah. Phil's on Ukraine Talk Executive. I see. Gotcha. Hold on 1 second. Because I have some stuff I want to cover with Phil in particular. Let's see if I can. Oh, there he is. Excellent. Check one. Oh, almost. That was weird. Oh, it's crunchy. It's crunchy audio. That's very strange. It's that good old hotel internet. It's RoboPhil. That's the. I hear RoboPhil. Do you guys hear RoboPhil? Or does it, in a fit of irony, does it sound totally fine to you guys, but then it sounds like a mess to me? Yeah. Hold on. You can hear me though? Okay, yeah. Your audio is totally crunchy, and I'm not quite sure why. So give me 1 second. I'm gonna see if I can. Hold on. Let me do this. I'm gonna do something with the audio settings. Compressor off, auto gain control on. Turn that off real quick, and then turn off echo cancellation, and maybe that'll help. Check for me. Yeah, that's pretty gnarly. Oh, it's coming from your. Hold on. Whoops.
How about that?
That's way better.
There we go.
Yeah. Look at that. Yeah. That's your the laptop one.
That's that's the computer
right.
mic.
Great. Okay. Well, welcome back. And there he is. And ladies and gentlemen, it took us a moment, but as you do, the irony that sometimes we will have a harder time doing audio and video from inside the United States than we do outside. Yeah. It's fairly hilarious. So let's do this. Yeah. So hold on. Oops, I want to drag this out. So hi, welcome to the show. Good to hear you. Hi. Much better now.
We talked about Kiev getting pelted, and that was awful and weird to watch that from afar.
Yeah.
Of course, I still get air raid sirens on my other phone, but I kind of muted it.
Right.
But the other thing is, Zelensky being here.
Yep.
And getting the crappy treatment that he got yesterday.
From JD Vance. Right.
Yeah, and from Johnson, and
right.
Obviously, I think the only person that treated him with the proper amount of respect was Biden.
Yep.
Well,
I will say, there's a distinct difference between JD Vance, who walked out of the meeting, the greater meeting. He left now, and that's because he openly supports Russia. Let's just be like he thinks it's already lost, and so why not? Why even bother and fuck it and just let it roll? And it's not our business. And it's interesting. It's always interesting how it's not our business when it benefits the Republican Party financially. In that Russian money to the NRA could start flowing again if you if it resettle the Russian economy, which we're going to talk about in a minute because it's taken a brand new shit. But on top of that, Mike Johnson's response was interesting to me, and why it wasn't that different. He was actually more supportive in his remarks of Ukraine than McCarthy was. He was saying, we believe that, Ukraine is fighting for their freedom, and we're, as Americans, are always on the side of freedom or whatever. But he was like, we need to secure our border first. He said that. But that's the conservative Republican line, not the Freedom Caucus line. The Freedom Caucus line is, why are we fighting for their border when we're not even securing our own? Not, we need to secure it and then we can do the funding. They don't, even if we did pass H2, which is the border bill that the Republicans passed in the House, they still wouldn't want to fund Ukraine. Mike Johnson is saying they're willing to go on that. Now, here's the thing. The interesting thing is Biden's comfortable with the most of what's in the H2 bill. The only problem is that they want more physical barrier, which isn't going to help at all because it creates a longer access road and gives immigrants farther that they can walk to the edge of when they hit the Indian land or they hit private property, they just walk around the fucking wall.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's all well and good, but the thing I take issue at is the whole concept of tying this to Ukraine aid. It's disgraceful.
Right. I agree.
As far as I and their argument is feeble at best to say this whole why do we care about Ukraine's borders when our borders? Well, I mean, that's weak sauce. That's absolutely like you can't walk and chew gum. Where the United States government,
right?
This is
I agree.
And it's vitally important to our national security that Ukraine wins. For the first time, at least Biden,
right?
Said openly, we want Ukraine to win. We want, which was that's a shift from this whole kind of. Whatever it takes, however long it takes, we're going to stand by you, blah, blah, blah. I'm Tara now again.
I know. I'll take it off. Don't worry. I'll get it there.
It's okay. It's all right. But, it's I mean, they're bombing the hell out of Kherson right now. I got a buddy of mine that I checked in with not 2 hours ago, and she said, we're getting attacked almost hourly. We get some sort of thing shot at us and people are dying.
Yeah.
And they're dithering. They're dithering and they're playing their domestic policy, politics game. And it's reprehensible. It's just, and the Europeans are watching all this as well. Right. And they're starting to make what happens if we have to go at it alone without the United States. They're questioning our resolve, and that's the Europeans. I mean, the Ukrainians are now starting to, question whether we're fair weather friends and whether we're going to force them to chuck something like Mariupol under the bus. And they never have security. They'll never have security as long as Russia has Sevastopol and Crimea. They're never going to have security because the Russians will exploit it.
Right.
And they'll continue to attack Ukraine. And the Ukrainians know this perfectly well. So that's why they're talking about the demand for 91 borders. And this whole issue of Johnson coming out and saying, we want to know what victory looks like. Well, President Zelensky has repeatedly said what victory looks like.
Right.
It means 91 borders. It means
that's
internationally recognized 91 borders.
Yep. And I was saying yesterday when he brought this up, I said, we know exactly what it looked like. You want absolute victory? You want a plan for victory? It's basically dump all the arms we can possibly give Ukraine on them right away, and they'll obliterate the Russians at a faster pace, which seems impossible at this point because it's literally 1,000 people a day. They entered the country with, I think, 360,000 soldiers. 315,000 have died.
Yep. 87% of the
Right.
military that they went into this war with has been either destroyed or issued inoperable and unusable. And 87% of their military has been, now they got backfill, and the one thing that the Russians have, well, one of some, several things, not a lot, but several things the Russians have over the Ukrainians is they've transitioned their entire economy to a war footing.
Right.
So they are able to mass produce, those very simplistic but effective drones, the electronic countermeasures that they are, pretty, credit where credit's due. They've developed good electronic countermeasure systems. And
well, they've been controlling
a lot of artillery.
Yeah, the Russians, unlike the Ukrainians, have been controlling 3 other countries for the since whatever 99. Between Georgia, Chechnya, and the portions of Ukraine, they have been, and a dozen other African countries, they have been using their overwhelming size compared to these other places as a control point for, I would argue
they've all but absorbed Belarus.
I would argue that
that's another nation state that they have violated the sovereignty of.
Yeah. And that's not going to change anytime soon. I mean, there will be a shift in Belarus, but real quick. So this is yesterday, if I may. This is a little try and make this a little better to read. But this is Biden actually, met with in meeting with Zelensky, said, I'm not going to leave Ukraine. I'm not going to back down from Ukraine at all. And I won't walk. He said, I won't walk away from Ukraine, and I'm ready to compromise with Congress. What he's talking about is the border bill that they're trying to get stuff through on. Yeah. What they don't realize is that there's not a lot in the H2 that isn't in the comprehensive immigration reform bill now because they needed people to get it to pass. It's not all just physical wall. And that's what the Freedom Caucus wants. They just want a physical wall and a shutdown of the border, which is totally dumb because it would destroy the Texas economy in an instant. Mexico is our biggest trading partner, and Texas is the largest conduit for those goods and services. It's just dumb. It makes no sense. And by the way, everybody in the Texas structure knows this. Everybody, the governor, Ted Cruz, all these assholes, they all know without Mexico, Texas is useless. So the minute you shut that border, it fucks all of their transit businesses and all the sea businesses that move there to do this. Now, there's a similar situation, in terms of compromised territory, as it were, in the Donbass, and Russia trying to squeeze out, goods and services, and again, the ownership of the gas that was found around Crimea as one of their other things. But the weird part is, we'll talk about, there's so much to talk about. There's the Russian oil and gas sector is taking a giant shit.
Yep.
I posted something earlier today from Bloomberg, which I was like, do people even read this shit? The Maria Bartiromos and all this stuff who were saying, like, Russia's getting rich on oil and all this stuff. Their oil production, they cut it because OPEC told them to. They can't afford to because they're selling it at $56 a barrel. They have to sell it at right now, they have to sell it at 80 to break even because they've lost all their fucking workers because they sent them to the front to die. And they're making $56 a barrel. The going rate right now is about $69 a barrel. And anytime it drops below 70, the U.S. government is buying oil and putting it in the reserves. He has a mark point that 70, anything under 70 is worth it. So once it hits 70, we have an automatic futures buy to fill the strategic reserve. That's what Biden has set up. That alone triggered futures to crisscross below each other, where the December-January futures on oil are higher than the January-February futures, which means the window of January, which is in both of those 2-month category areas, are upside down, they have a weird little word for it. I forget what the name is, but it's like this weird thing that never happens in the oil market unless things are about to take a giant shit. And Russia knows this. And the cutoff of them cutting production is hurting them and the Saudis. It's not working. There's too much oil. There's oversupply right now. And that's their main fee. Now, this whole thing, I won't walk away from Ukraine. I'm ready to compromise with Congress. We'll ultimately end up with a compromise deal somewhere around January where our Ukraine aid runs out and a re-up will happen. And included in that will be money for Israel, money for Ukraine, and by the way, provisions of effectively a chunk of money that Biden can use at his own discretion around national security. That's how Republicans are going to give the money to Ukraine and Israel and hide it from their constituents. That's what's going to happen in January, along with some version of border funding that's going to be higher than than both sides want. Honestly, Biden gave $200 million yesterday. That was from the previous leftover slush that I'm talking about, the sort of movable funds, right? Right. So that's why Biden can be confident in saying this with Ukraine.
Eventually they'll get it. I mean, I'm also in contact with people who are up kind of campaigning on the Hill and going, knocking on doors and things like that. There's a couple of Ukrainian pro-Ukrainian lobby groups that are, pushing right now, and I'm in contact with a couple of them, and they're not doing cartwheels, they're not thrilled, but they do recognize that, or they do, they inform me that they're so confident that they'll get the money eventually, they'll get the support eventually. Right. But it's just this kind of, it's the games that are being played, and it also sets the stage for, the coming year as the political landscape is going to get worse and worse in the United States. And this is going to get, be, you and I are of the same mind that the criminal is not going to be allowed, it's just, he's not going to be president again.
Yeah.
But it's going to be I think there's going to be a lot of ugliness going on during the political during the election year on the political landscape, away from the presidential, but and I fear that they're going to embroil Ukraine in this. So there's going to be this, it's going to become more and more than it already is, partisan, and it shouldn't be. This absolutely should not be a partisan issue. This is right. Obviously, it couldn't be more obvious what Russia's intent is. They're attacking. This is the other thing we have to wake up to, the fact that during this electoral year, the Russians are going to attack us repeatedly, constantly. We are going to be under information bombardment. And there are going to be those within Congress, either knowingly, willingly, or otherwise, who are going to contribute to this. It's going to get crazy. The Russians are very good at this, and they study us extensively. They know how to pull our string, and they're going to do it. They're going to do it this entire year, and it's going to be more susceptible to the kind of fellow traveler idiots in Congress who have a sympathetic ear towards Russia and are dismissive or downright anti-Ukrainian. It's going to get worse and worse, and it's going to the Russian information warfare is going to go through the roof. So everybody should be anticipating this.
No question. Yeah, the internal workings of it, I think right now, because of like Alex Jones coming back to shitter and that kind of stuff, I think there's a growing kind of like numbness to it on most voters' minds that is just becoming the buzzing of bees to some degree. And the irony is that this amount of like fuckery in social media is driving people back to what they would call legacy media in this process. Yeah. It's ironic, but that's exactly what's happening. Like there was a period where like congressional ads and that kind of stuff were having less of an impact because people were turning to social media for their news and the like. Specifically, and it's different. Like I would say, like live streaming on YouTube or something like that is a little more akin because it's on your TV as well. So there's almost people are they're going back and forth. But anything where individuals are posting or no name people are posting stuff, people are just kind of just graying out to it. And it's going to increase as it gets noisier, because that noise, it's kind of like one of those pictures that they make out of 1,000 pictures that you feel like if I get back far enough, I can see what this picture is made of, when in reality, it's not connected. It's just chaos. And you're like, oh, this is not a picture at all. I'm not getting a better picture of what's going on. It's just haze. That said, I wanted to run a couple of things by you while you're on with me. Specifically, the first one being, where is this? There's a lady who sure. Okay, where is she? Oh yeah, here it is. The deputy editor of Putin's favorite newspaper, whatever the I don't like
Novaya Gazeta, or
yeah, her name is Anna Tsareva. She's dead. Her boss died last year. This is, hold on one second. This right here. Deputy editor of Putin's favorite newspaper, Anna Tsareva, found dead at age 35, just a year after her boss's mystery death. Newspaper editor-in-chief Vladimir Songorkin, 68, died under mysterious circumstances in September of 2022. The deputy editor-in-chief of Vladimir Putin's favorite newspaper has been found dead in Moscow, marking the latest in a series of mysterious deaths in Russia. This is her. The body of Anna Tsareva, 35, was discovered at her home in the capital's Bolshoi-Tushinsky Lane, nearly a year after the death of her boss. That's him. That's her boss.
Komsomolskaya Pravda. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, she was found dead in her apartment. Police have opened an investigation into the death. Deputy editor of Pro-Putin, Komsomolskaya Pravda, reported Baza, the online news, that no signs of violent death were found. Well, you know, I would argue that poisoning someone is an act of violence, even if it doesn't leave a blood trail. I would say that poisoning is violence. We'll leave that aside. Initial reports say there was no indication of a break-in to her apartment. It was known she developed an unspecified acute respiratory viral infection.
Of course.
And had suffered a high fever for several days. Yeah, not because somebody sprayed something in her fucking face 3 days ago. However, Shot Media reported today that it is suspected she died of acute heart failure. Right, at 35 years old. Dad found her body.
This goes back years and years. They have no problem doing this kind of stuff.
Nope.
Killing journalists, and look, maybe she was, maybe it happens. 35 years old, you got a heart murmur or something, or we don't know. Right. But the pattern would indicate otherwise.
Right.
So I can't categorically say that she was killed by the state, but this goes back to,
that's how they do it, though.
2015. This goes back to, this goes back to, 2001 or 2, whenever Anna Politkovskaya was killed, when she was getting too close to Putin's warlord in Chechnya, and she was ready to unveil a bunch of war crimes.
Right.
And, she got bumped off, and then it goes just a series of, and then there's guys who investigate her murder, and because they get too close to Anna Politkovskaya's murder, they end up dead, like Georgy Gongadze. And it's just, it goes on. And the one murder that stands out to me is Mikhail Lesin. Mikhail Lesin was Vladimir Putin's spin doctor in his first and really only election. He was the first head of RT before Simonian was brought in, and really Simonian is just a nepo baby, kind of, who's the figurehead of RT, but is really just a mouthpiece for the state.
Right. By the way, all these people are dead.
All those guys, and I presume they're all. Well, there's Prigozhin in there, so anybody who's anti-Putin, I'm betting that list is. But Lesin goes to DC in 2015, in the run-up to the 2016 election. This is his spin doctor. This is Putin's spin doctor, who knows the inner workings of the Kremlin and how they manipulate and how they conduct information warfare. He is reportedly about to go have a meeting with the FBI at Quantico. and he's in D.C. for that reason. And he is found dead with repeated concussion, with concussive impacts to his skull.
Right.
And the ruling is that it was because he was
fell
so
down
drunk.
the steps. He was drunk and he fell down the stairs.
He was intoxicated, and he fell in his hotel room, smashed his head on the table, apparently again repeatedly, and was found dead. And that investigation has never been properly concluded.
Right.
You know, that to me is just a massive emergency flare that went up. And I mean, that's in the run up to the 2016 election. I don't think that's a coincidence either. So, you know, there's this running through line of anybody, even if you're supposed to be like on Putin's side, if you suddenly decide to break from that, or look like you're going to break from that, or just frankly be in the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong amount of information, you end up dead.
Gravity poisoning.
That's what they're offering us. This is another reason why I went and I visited the Statue of Liberty. I guess it was just yesterday. You know, and it just because I had some time to kill. But I went and, you know, it made me think about, you know, what's the alternative that Russia is offering us? Because Russia is an expansionist power. They're looking to reintroduce the Soviet Union, and you hear them talking all about like, well, we have to absorb this for our security and that for our security, and we have to control this and we have to control that for our security. And, you know, so at what point do they stop? It's, you know, is the idea that ultimately they want to control and dominate the West completely, as many of them have said? Well, that's one thing. But the other thing is, if, let's say, that god-awful scenario happens, what is the alternative that they offer us? And because there's an ideological component to this conflict that not a lot of people talk about. But there is an ideological aspect to it, in that what Putin wants to create is an abandonment of the entire ideals of the Age of Enlightenment and the American Revolution. The idea,
which is why he's siding with Hamas and others, because he doesn't care how it happens.
He wants to go back to the default position of might makes right.
Yeah,
and that law is only used to abuse people. It is a cudgel to be used to justify abuses by the state. He wants us to go back to that. That's the alternative that Russia is offering Europe and by extension the West. He has said it repeatedly, you know, and not only him, but a huge sector of the power, the great and powerful, and the decision makers and the ideologues and all the rest of it in Russia, openly saying we want to destroy this concept, this decadent concept that the West has of inalienable rights and the rule of law and a court system based on, you know, legal statutes and not just, you know, power. We get upset when we see misuse of law and the rule of law, as we should, because we expect better. What Russia is offering is a scenario where don't expect better. You know, it's and at the end of the day, if you have might and power and wealth, then
that's all you need.
That's all you need. Is that the kind of world we want to live in? Because that's really what we're fighting over in
That's
Ukraine.
what they're shooting for.
And Ukrainians are the ones dying for it. And so when I see people talking about, oh, it's financially not, you know, what about our border? Financially, what does it mean for us? And, oh, you know, the Ukrainians are dying for these ideals, and they really believe it. They want the Ukrainians want these ideals. So all this talk about, oh, Ukraine is completely corrupt.
Well, you also have to understand that
because they're trying to get away from Russia.
A however slight majority and a shrinking majority of the Republican Party are supporting a man who not only didn't serve because he faked bone spurs, but also has, you know, according to his own chief of staff, regarded dead soldiers as suckers and losers, can't figure out why anybody would serve, and mocked John McCain for being caught and said he wasn't a hero for, by the way, I don't even know that his followers grasp how awful this is, and that it isn't the caught part. It's how you behave when you're caught, especially if they're trying to get information from you. McCain could have gotten out, but he refused because he wouldn't leave without everybody else. That's a level of heroism that I think most people have a hard time grasping. There are probably anybody could come up with fucking 10 reasons why they go, well, I mean, I probably should stay behind, but if I get out, I can tell them where you are and I'll be fine. I'll let them know where you guys, I'll see you later. Like that kind of shit. But he refused to go. That in and of itself is a level of heroism.
Well, you're still considered to be a serving member of the U.S. Armed Forces, even if you are in a POW camp. And as a matter of fact, you're told, this is your responsibility. If your responsibility is to try and break out. That's part of your duty is to try and break out, or it's part of your duty to
escape and provide information
within the POW camp, so that your fellow service members are cared for and all the rest. There's a whole litany of things that you, as a serving member of the U.S. Armed Forces, despite being in a prisoner of war camp, you are still expected and duty bound to, conduct yourself in such a manner. And McCain did it in an exemplary manner. How long do you think Trump would have lasted in the Hanoi Hilton?
Oh my God. He would have, he would have given up. No, first of all, nobody would have trusted him with any information, so he wouldn't have had anything to give. So they probably would have done him in early. But if he did manage to flim-flam his way out as fast as fucking possible. Now, Barbara in our chat room, she's on Facebook, is asking about Alexei Navalny being missing, because
this is another good topic of discussion.
Yeah.
I mean, Navalny, his lawyers have gone to the penal colony where he's being held, which is a particularly awful one. And they are being told he's, in essence, this is a very simplified version of him, but we've lost him. He's somewhere in the system and we've lost him, is their excuse. More likely than not, he's probably, he's either deathly ill, shows signs of torture, or is dead. That's kind of just the way it is. And it's disturbing that they're not getting access to Navalny. I'm no fan of Alexei Navalny. I think Navalny has a Russian imperial mentality. He still believes that Russia has a right to command its near abroad, and that imperial Russia is still a thing. So I'm no Navalny fan. He's done some good work.
I think there's a measured version of it. I think it's a difference between, say, there are people famously in the Republican pundit world that were, flippantly saying we need to nuke the Middle East and turn the sand to glass, right? That would be the Putin-esque group of people. And then there were the dialed back people where they were like, we'll pretend to care about, democracy so that we can shove a little industry on them. And we'll, the American, sort of corporate imperialism is what they were kind of shooting for, not the zone of actual military imperialism. I think Navalny's closer to that. And I mean, in the case of Russia, it's a distinction without a difference in some cases, because their economic and their national interests are so directly aligned. Ours fluctuate. Theirs don't necessarily. Hence, the Wagner Group is both a private group of mercenaries and a subsidiary of the army, and acts on their own, but only if it's in the interests of, Russia as a greater, or the Russian leadership. So that kind of thing. And I think he's what you would say is to the left of that, but and a considerable amount where you could deal with him, but not like Putin.
No, he's certainly an agitator, and he's certainly in opposition to Putin, which is a good thing. So I'm happy to see him get involved in taking down the Putin regime. But I don't want him in the Kremlin either.
Right. Yeah. I don't trust him either. But you can tell, again, there are, and we talk about this all the time, when you're ever confronted with a decision that you believe is the lesser of two evils, choose less evil. And in this particular case, he's certainly less evil than Vladimir Putin. And the chances that his, I guess his competitors for leadership would be pushed out a window at the rate or frequency or viciousness that Putin did it is, Again, it's questionable,
Well,
but I
mean,
have a feeling it'd be
the problem
less.
is, the problem is the political class has been absolutely decimated after 20,
Right.
some odd years of
So he's
Putin.
what's left.
He's kind of what's left.
Right.
And there's a couple of other names, but nobody. I mean, none of them are really going to make the fundamental changes that Russia needs to make, and Navalny won't either.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is bigger than any one politician or any political movement. Although there are no political movements of note in Russia that I think would be do the actual work that needs to be done.
Right.
Russia has pushed they have kicked the can down the road in terms of reform for literally 2 centuries.
Yeah.
I mean, this goes back to the Decembrists who fought in the Napoleonic War, saw how the West was living, came back to Russia and said, we want to be treated better.
Mm-hmm.
And they were shot dead, in a field outside of the Winter Palace or whatever it was in St. Petersburg. That's like 1840 something. I want to say 18 early, early to mid 19th century. Some 15 to 40, I think it's somewhere in that ballpark. I don't remember the exact date, but the point I'm trying to make is Russia has been kicking this can down the road all the way back to the Decembrists, arguably even further back than that. But then you have the anarchist movement of the late 19th century, when the Decembrists have been destroyed, and then there's this massive they know what they need to do. They really do. They know that they need to reform.
I want to say it was it Garfield who was shot, President Garfield, who was shot in the United States by an anarchist who was trying to suck up to what was effectively one of the offshoots of the Russian anarchist movement.
Yeah, well, there was a whole anarchist movement in the late 19th century, of which Russia was a huge part of it.
Right.
There was no middle ground between what the Tsar was offering and what these violent anarchists decided. The only way to do it is to upend everything. And then, of course, it led to the Bolsheviks and the Soviet Union, and then the violence of '91 and the immediate, the sudden collapse of the Soviet Union, and the chaos that resulted, and the awfulness of the '90s and how difficult that was. They keep kicking the can down the road. And after Putin, I mean, I have said again since the beginning of the war in Ukraine, I have said that this is not the crisis. The crisis is what happens when Russia loses the war. And I'm hoping that through that crisis, they'll finally look in the mirror and go, right, we actually have to change. We have to empower our own people. We have to build civil society instead of having this very vertical sense of power where there's a very thin elite and an even thinner middle class. But the vast bulk of this country is just at the whim of the state and grist for the mill. Look what's happening in Ukraine. They've lost 300,000 men, but they won't care about the men that they've lost. What they'll care about is when they recognize that maybe they're going to lose Crimea, and the dream of Peter the Great, of Russia being a great naval power is going to fail, that the land that Catherine the Great took from the Turks is going to be relinquished and taken back by the Ukrainians.
Right.
And that the idea that they would be this kind of third Rome, which they dream of being, is dead.
Right.
They won't care about the people, but when that realization that the power of the Russian Empire is no longer, that might be the thing that forces them into change. But change they need to do. Change they cannot be in the 21st century acting like they're in the 15th. I'm sorry, it's too. That poison bleeds across borders. The corruption and the violence and all the rest of it, it bleeds across borders. So I am sincerely hoping, for the Russians' sake themselves, that when they lose this war, they finally actually do the hard work that's been necessary for, as I say, literally 2 centuries.
By the way, for the record, I misspoke. It was McKinley who was assassinated by
that's right.
by that guy. Yeah. That's the timing of it, 1901, which is about again, this is the spread of that anarchist movement. Leon Skarsgård, whatever his name was, had fallen kind of like enamored by this this woman who was preaching anarchy or whatever, and kind of did it out of fealty to her and his own kind of like, she was his Jodie Foster, as it were. Yeah. That he was trying to impress her.
Well, we tend to forget because of course nobody is alive from that period of time. But the turn of the century between the 19th and the 20th was this birth of all these ideologies: fascism, communism, anarchism, anarchy, not an anachronism. Anarchism. There we go. I can speak. All these ideologies were floating around at the turn of the 19th and into the 20th.
Yeah.
And a lot of it was because of the
collapse of the Russian system. Yeah. Everybody was looking for a new dad.
And the death of aristocratic empires, and it took World War I to do it, but you could
argue that communism won out in the USSR during that kind of transition period because they couldn't decide on a particular ism, and communism left the promise of, we're all in this together. We'll need a guide through to it, but the point is we'll use socialism to get to communism, and then we'll all have a say, because everybody, even the president, will have to till the fields at one point. That was the bullshit story they were selling at the beginning of communism. And it really does, you could tell, it's literally like somebody's juggling all these ideologies, and then they all just dropped and went, communism is all the balls on the floor. It's just kind of like, well, okay, fuck it. And that's what they went into. And like anarcho-capitalism, or anarcho-syndicalism, which is the joke they make in Holy Grail, right? We're an anarcho-syndicalist commune. We take turns on a biannual basis, being a sort of an executive.
Watery Tart's handing you.
Yes, Watery Tart's one of our regular chatters now. Yes, it's no system. Yeah.
No, but in all seriousness, Russia has needed to change, and not only for its own good, but for its neighbors and for Europe, and for better relations globally.
Right.
And they know it. They know it too. If you spend enough time with Russians, and if you put enough vodka into them, they know it. They know very well that the double-edged sword that they are facing is the fact that they must empower their citizenry, the individuals within their citizenry.
Yeah, just to make sure there's not an uprising.
They can't, because in so doing, they risk the security of the state.
Right.
And the state is all powerful, whether it's a czar, a Soviet, or Putin. They've always had this idea that the state is more important than the individual. Hence, 300,000 dead Russian soldiers, and nobody is. I mean, there's no mass uprising. But if they lose Crimea and the dignity of Crimea, and they're embarrassed by another complete collapse and humiliation on the global stage, like they saw in 91 in the 90s, that will maybe push them to make a massive change, i.e. get rid of Putin. So it's a brutal system. It's a brutal
we do
situation.
know right now that the Chinese are eyeing parts of Siberia, and have already renamed them on their maps, and are just basically waiting for this keel over to happen, and are basically befriending Putin, it seems, almost so that when they do reclaim some land, they can use it to maybe pressure Kazakhstan on giving them oil and gas, because they are still the single biggest importer of oil in the world. I have to show you this. Hold on one second. Let me see if I can find the thing that I want to say it was. The current situation when it comes to like the oil and gas sector, I have never found an area of economic discussion more boring than oil and gas over the years, because so much of it is the opposite of real dynamic markets or real dynamic humanity. It is effectively a manipulation of a resource that is necessary for the existence of most countries, and therefore whoever has it has a thumb on everybody else. And that is the opposite of responsive, open free markets, whatever you want to call them. And so that manipulation has ate up so much of our politics in the world. And Russia joining OPEC Plus made it even more dense and awful. But there was, let's see, I'll put this out. There was, right now, crude oil is at $69.10. It is below $70. And the futures market on this, there was an article about it today, and I just and again, you have to understand the reason this is important to our discussion is because Russia's only export right now is oil and gas. That's the only thing, that and I guess murder for hire. I'm only kind of sort of kidding, because the Wagner Group is a moneymaker for they go into an area, they get paid by the local warlord to kill people, and in the process load goods and stuff on trucks and drive it out of the fucking country. That's what's happening in Sudan with the gold right now. The RSF is paying Wagner Group to murder people, and when they do it, they take trucks from gold mines and run off with it. And I'm gonna find this. I'm scrolling through this right now, but the idea is that oil is like at the COP28 summit, right? That just happened in Dubai, and you got all these sheikhs and Arabs all standing around going, "We need to transition away from fossil fuels." Sure, but the fact that they all agreed to it is an amazing step forward. Now, Putin wasn't present because somebody would snatch him up. If he was there, and he has to fly with 4 fighter jets around him when he travels anywhere. But I just don't see, what is Russia without oil? This is bad enough to look at what Saudi Arabia is. Saudi Arabia is now Las Vegas without oil. That's what they're trying to make out of Dubai. And Russia almost had that with the party like a Russian Moscow idea.
Yeah, I mean, with the vast territory that Russia currently consists of, there's tons of stuff that they can rip out of the ground or cut down, but as the rest of the world kind of moves into renewables and intellectual property and those things driving you, Russia is still left in a situation because they have not developed any other kind of industry other than what have we got that we can rip from the ground, or otherwise just, as I say, cut down trees and, open up tundra, taiga and all the rest of it. But it's no more sophisticated than what can we rip out of the earth,
right,
and sell. I mean, there was a very weak Medvedev when he was prime minister. He tried to create what he called the Silicon Valley of Russia, and the irony was that they trained
became Ukraine
up
effectively.
Well, no, yeah, right. No, what happened was is that they trained up a whole bunch of IT guys at this Silicon Valley of Russia, and then the best of them were offered jobs in the West in actual Silicon Valley.
Right.
They went later.
Yeah, and they're not coming back. So this
and they're not
this
coming
is
back. Yeah.
so this is what I was talking about. I have the I wish I had the full article or whatever, but this is the chart I posted earlier, and this would be one of in days past. My dear friend Phil, this is the kind of thing that I would just glaze over when I saw it because it wouldn't have any meaning to me, and it seems like outside the realm of my existence, as a human being, such an odd thing. But because, Republicans are making so much of drill, baby, drill, and Trump is saying that old fucking Sarah Palin shit, and Russia is basically financing this off there, and the Saudis are playing both sides of the field. They're trying to be, Tom in Miller's Crossing in this whole exchange. That there was a part of this that stood out. Now, that chart right there, the yellow line is January, February, and the black line is December, January. And these are the futures. And you'll see that little part right there. They're both going down, but the January, February one, which is, they overlap them, but they would be like this. And it's lower than the January, before it. So you've got two corresponding lines of people buying oil going, oh, this sucks worse than we thought. The word was contango. That's what they, so a contango is when it gets bad. Okay. So the top of this article was hilarious, but it was the essence of it is right there. Middle East crude market flashes weakness. Now remember, Trump told us $200 a barrel very soon. It's going to happen in 21, much less, he keeps saying it, whatever. Dubai spreads have tumbled into contango. That's rough for them. And this is during COP28 when they've just agreed to move on from it. The fascinating part is this part down here. Crude markets are being pressured by higher supplies, particularly exports from the U.S., which have countered a decision by OPEC Plus producers to curb output. It's a weakness that has helped drag headline Brent future prices to the lowest since June. The United States output is, because Russia's output is so low and China's output is demand is so low, that it became a wash. It's every time Russia turns around, it's a wash. Every time they turn around. And this is like I said, this would be a boring chart, except this is what's fucking Vladimir Putin's war plans and economic hopes for the future without the West and all that nonsense. And it's also making like other countries like China sit there on his fucking, like outside his window on a fucking branch like a vulture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's cheaper to
might
seize
put
it.
him on. They want him, they might keep him on life support, proverbially, in Moscow, just so that he can be their good little puppet.
Right.
They're dancing. Moscow is going to be dancing to Beijing's tune.
Yeah.
If they are to survive this thing after this conflict goes horribly wrong for them,
right?
Which I am still convinced, no matter what happens with our support or our non-support, my feeling is the Ukrainians they're going to continue to fight no matter what, because it's an existential, it's an existential fight for them.
But it isn't for the Russians,
and that's way or the other.
Yeah,
one way or the other, Russia, if it is to survive, will be dancing to Beijing's tune. And that will be a further humiliation of Russia that they will not easily stomach. I mean, I don't see how Putin gets out of this at all. There's no way. I don't see it. But moreover, again, not to sound like a broken record, but it's time that Russia does some very serious work on itself. I mean, you can say what you want about the United States, but we're
always doing that.
We're always working to try and improve ourselves. I mean, even the conservatives, even the the guys who want things to be the 1950s again, they're still looking at a country that how this is a problem that we have. How can we address it? Now they're completely wrong-headed in their goals that they want to achieve, but at least they still have the idea of we need to make changes to make this union a better union. That is a constant thing in the West and in particular in America. Russia, by contrast, stays static as much as it possibly can and ignores all developments globally and all developments internally, which it needs to do. And so again, not to sound like a broken record, when they lose this war, instead of losing their minds and going into some civil war or some worse, draconian situation, that they finally look in the mirror and go, we need to empower our people and we need to actually find a system in which our people are empowered and involved, and there is civil society. It's a really big ask because they got a lot of hurdles and a lot of history and a lot of there's a lot of layers there, with a lot of pain coming from the Orthodox Church to the Tsarist system to the empire to the Soviet Union and all the rest of it. Their entire history has been really brutal. There's a lot of trauma to overcome, but it's the only way we're ever going to find some sort of peace is if Russia can change, because alternatively we're the ones that are going to have to change, and the change that Russia will require of us is to return to a system of might makes right. The powerful are the powerful because they're powerful and don't question it, and it is just, if you have power, use it constantly, because otherwise somebody will steal. The old it's a jungle. It's animalistic. The dominant is the dominant, and the submissive is the submissive. The sounds a little too kinky.
Every state is just a satellite state of a bigger force. They just don't know it yet, or they won't admit it to themselves. That was what Vladimir Putin said effectively about all the former Soviet states and then the rest of Europe. So the idea is that, obviously Dagestan and the ones that are still remaining tied to Russia, maybe he even views this as Kazakhstan, but I doubt it because they've been giving him the finger lately. But certainly he believes that eventually Ukraine, Georgia, all these countries will be brought to heel because their place in the world is to be like the sister wives of Russia. That's and whether they know it or not, that's the
binary.
And that applies to the rest of Europe too, unless
somebody loses.
Right.
And to be fair, that is the default position. We are revolutionaries.
Right.
We are, the American Revolution is a revolution that continues to this day.
Right.
We now call it a project, but it started as a revolution, and it's a revolutionary idea to empower people and to have, and for the proverbial weak to have recourse to law and to have a vote and to cast a ballot and have their voice heard. These are not normal things. This is a new thing on the global stage in so many different ways. And Russia, the alternative that Russia offers us is reverting back to might makes right.
Right. And some people on the right, especially in the Republican crowd, believe that they would benefit from that, so therefore they want that to come back, even though it means horror and murder and death and war for all time, forever.
Those guys have always been with us, even with the 13 colonies and eventually what would become the Confederacy. They play lip service to the Constitution when it empowers them. The test of the Constitution is not when you are getting the vote going your way. The test of the Constitution is when somebody else, by popular vote, goes against what you want, and you suck it up and you reassess your party and you reassess your political support, and then you go back to the ballot when you can go back to the ballot. That's what it's supposed to be. But we've always had these guys, whether call them MAGA, call them Trumpist, call them know nothings, call them America firsters, call it whatever you want to call it. They've always go watch Gangs of New York. What is Gangs of New York except for this very issue? Yeah, that Bob the Butcher is the example the example of politics are all well and good until it doesn't serve me, and then it goes to violence.
Yeah.
That's the world that Vladimir Putin.
That's what gangsters were about. That's why you constantly will hear talk from mobsters and gangsters always about how the cops are just another gang, right? We're just fighting the other gang, and the cops are a gang, and they wear a uniform, and we wear colors, or we wear business suits, and they wear that was the mob did it. And the reason the mob says that is because they don't want to because they believe that they're the greater society hasn't hired those cops and passed the laws to do the thing, because they don't believe in the representative government, because they don't live inside that anyways. They live in a subsector of the society that does not participate in the causal relationship between citizens. They're outside. That's what criminals do. And so they think in those terms about everybody else. Why wouldn't they? Especially if you're brought up into it and, the mob or Cosa Nostra or, gang life, wherever it is. Or the Russians, that effectively, that idea that you're brought up in it, that's what you're going to think. It's the only option, right?
And that's what the Ukrainians are fighting and dying for right now. This is not just geopolitical. This is not financial. This is not economic. Right. It is that, but in addition to that, it is also ideological. It literally is the same thing as the Second World War, when we were fighting against Nazism. Or when we were fighting against Stalinism, for that matter. There is an ideological aspect to it, and the ideological aspect to it is the Ukrainians have decided that they don't want to live that way, and so they're willing to fight and die for it.
And that's a new thing on Earth in the last couple of hundred years, and some people are just having a hard time
and the fact
accepting
that we are
politicizing
it and turning it into a domestic issue is disgusting. And the guys that are
Right.
out there going, well, how much money are we going to give them? First, it's Lend-Lease. Secondly, we got thousands of Bradleys collecting dust that we could send their way.
Oh my God! Again, I
it is
posted a
weak
picture on my
sauce at best.
Instagram a while back of the lot that's outside of San Francisco, where all this this military gear that is not good enough for our guys, but is still way better than anything Russia has. All that shit could just be put on a train car and sent to a fucking port.
Yep.
All
Put
of it.
them on boats, send them over.
Yep.
They'll take it. They'll fight the war because they believe. Again,
Right.
this is an ideological difference. The Ukrainians have decided they do not want to live in a system where it is binary, it is hierarchical, and power is vertical, and everything goes to Moscow. They're fighting for that ideology, the same ideology that we fought for in our revolution. And the fact that we're making it a domestic policy issue is shameful for those guys, for those members of Congress who are playing with it that way and betraying the dream of the American Revolution, betraying what this revolution was supposed to be all about, which was supposed to be a beacon of light to the rest of the world and an idea that we don't have to live where might makes right. The guys that are betraying that, I think, should be ashamed of themselves, and there should be no question in any American's heart as to whether or not we should support Ukraine, because their revolution is the exact same revolution that we had in 1776. In fact, a lot of people who contributed to our Revolutionary War were guys who'd gotten their asses kicked by the Tsar and decided that they would try and help build the dream in this new land called America, but always hoped that they would return and free their people from the despotism of the Tsar, the Tsarist system. And by not paying it back, we're betraying their sacrifices. So, this shouldn't even be a question. This shouldn't even be something we're discussing. We should be giving every possible advantage to the Ukrainians in the form of all they're asking for is the weapons. They're by and large all they're asking for is the means to defeat a really cancerous, dangerous ideology and power that if left unchecked will screw the rest of Europe, and we will eventually we will feel the result of it. So, there's no question in my mind, but that we need to support Ukraine, and that it's even a question. And what happened yesterday on the Hill, it was an embarrassment to me, and I had to apologize to a lot of my Ukrainian friends, even though they're very smart people and they understand that I have no power or pull over this thing. But I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed yesterday by how Zelensky was treated and the discourse that happened while he was there. All they're asking for is the means to defend themselves and to basically live with the same dream and American ideals and to adopt the American project. And we should support that 100%. And the fact that it's even being discussed is really upsetting to me. So I'm hoping we'll do better in the future, and I think we will. But yesterday was not a good day.
Right. And on that note, Phil, thanks for being here. We'll see you on Saturday.
I gotta run and do stuff.
Yeah.
So I'll probably
I'll let you go.
Here
thanks so much. Yeah.
We'll be in touch, but I don't know how long I'll be here.
Understood.
But we'll talk.
Yeah. Well, don't worry. Right. I have faith in this country, buddy. I do. So I will see you much later. Thanks for coming in. Check out Phil's vlogs, and then it's just a humanizing source of information of what's going on.
Call your
congressperson.
Call your congressperson and tell them we need to support Ukraine. I mean, I'm just, now's the time. We're at an inflection point, and we need to reinforce the support for those people, because,
and also now's a good time to re-up maybe you did the Slava Ukraine, or you did a flag for them or whatever on social media and stuff. Again, now's a good time, because it will poke the right bear. It will all the people who think the support is flagged because people just don't feel like they have to re-up it. It's a really good time to just remind them. Hence the background that I created for when I have Phil on, when we have these discussions, because both I support Ukraine in their fight for freedom, but I also know it irritates all the right people. So it's a dual use flag. Thanks, Ukraine. So thanks so much, Phil, and I will talk to you later.
Man.
Take care of yourself.
All right, we will. Take care.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye. There he goes, ladies and gentlemen. Philip Bittner. Please subscribe to his channel on YouTube. It's Philip with one L, Ittner with two T's. There you go. And God damn it, this bear was trying to sleep. I'm sorry I woke you. I apologize. And chat room, that's why you changed your profile pic, Regina. That's very nice. Appreciate it. Yeah, a couple of like blue and yellow hearts, those kind of things. I think we should all do that today. We'll all just post. I'm going to do it. Share everybody else's on your timeline. Help, maybe we'll make a concerted effort on that to remind everybody. Yeah. And then, if you do the Ukrainian flag with the U.S. flag together, again, it shows your genuine support as a real American and, or wherever you are. I guess you could, if you're in another country, if I'm speaking, obviously the internet we are mega worldwide after all. But if you can share that, those two together, it will irritate all the right people. So appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. I will see you later this afternoon. Take care of yourself and take care of somebody else. And I'll see you then. And okay, bye. Do you like the new edition here? Talk about irritating all the right people. Get used to that shit. Uh-huh. All right. And if you like the show today, hit that like on the way out if you haven't already.